How long do you plan to stay in this house? Seriously. It's of no use whatsoever, and besides, you are so ugly. Isn't it embarrassing? Why don't you move out soon? We have movers coming soon. My husband and mother-in-law keep throwing words like that at me, as if it were second nature. And once they start, they just don't stop. Now this house will finally be peaceful. It's been so hard to live here ever since you came. There was no other choice. Mom's right. Why did I marry someone like this? My husband says this, letting out a loud sigh as if to say enough is enough. Are you even listening? It's about you. Yes. After that, they continue with their hurtful comments about me, so cruel that it's hard to put them into words. If I continue to live with these two in the future, my heart will shatter. I left my in-laws' place, feeling like I'd been kicked out. 2 weeks later, I received an unbelievable number of missed calls from my husband. You said your salary was $140,000, didn't you? I don't remember ever saying that. My husband had a grand misunderstanding. And I think he realized how foolish it was to try to kick me out. My name is Paige, and I'm 46 years old, working at a securities firm. I'm married, but we don't have any children. I married Jasper just 3 years ago to begin with. Because I was at this age, it wasn't a straightforward decision. We're both over 40, so it is okay not to meet your family formally, right? No way, you just do that. Is that so? Yes. We're going to introduce ourselves next weekend. I had been all about work up to this age. I wasn't really interested in marriage, but I thought, why not get married, at least once in my lifetime? So, I took the plunge into marriage. Welcome! And you must be the one over there? Yeah, this is Paige. I'm thinking about getting married her. I see. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. My first impression wasn't very positive. Just from the brief exchange at the front door, I could tell she was sizing me up, as if she was trying to assess my worth. So, you said you're getting married, but when? I'm planning to submit the marriage certificate next month, for now. What about your parents, Paige? My parents. Both have passed away. I see. That's unfortunate. I've been fortunate due to my job. Having interacted with various people of different professions and ages, I had become quite good at figuring out whether someone was being sincere or not. Just like the example, she isn't speaking her true feelings either. Well, for now, I just came to say hello today. It's time for us to leave. Thank you for having me, I said as I was about to leave. That's when she suddenly grabbed my arm. What can I? Please take good care of my son, okay? Yes. The hand that gripped me seemed to convey a message that I was taking her son away from her, and it was a strong grip. I felt instinctively that I shouldn't get too involved with this person. Visits like this aren't really a big deal, right? Yes, you're right. My husband had been divorced twice. The reason I chose someone like him was that he didn't interfere more than necessary. Being with a husband like that was comfortable and pleasant. However, things changed rapidly like a flash of light after we registered our marriage. I'll go submit the marriage certificate tomorrow. Thank you. That's a big help. The next day, as I returned home, I realized once again that we had truly become a married couple, and I spotted a pair of unfamiliar shoes at the entrance. I entered the living room hesitantly. Oh, hi, Paige. Oh, hi. You're here. I happened to be nearby, And besides, I have something important to talk with you today. The moment I heard those words, I couldn't help but have a bad feeling. So what's important matter? As I spoke to her, my husband answered instead of her. Well, now that we're officially married, we can live together. Huh? At first, I didn't understand what he was saying. It felt like I had wandered into a maze, with various thoughts swirling around. What does that mean? Of course, it means living with Mom. Didn't I mention it? I've never heard anything like that from you. My bad. But I just mentioned it now. I suddenly shifted my gaze to my mother-in-law. She was looking at me, smiling as if she were a witch. As if she had seen through everything, she said, "Paige, it's how it is, so please understand." With that, she quickly left. I immediately confronted my husband. Can you please explain what's going on? All right, don't get so upset, he replied. And when you say live together, you mean here? Oh no, not here. At my parents' place. So what about this house? In that case, we can just cancel the lease. I could only sigh in despair at my husband's perspective. But I couldn't find a solution, given my current situation. The only silver lining was that I wasn't a housewife, I had a job. I thought that if I was out during the day, I could minimize the amount of time we spent together. Even if we agree to live together, it's going to be very difficult for me to handle all the household chores. While working, I expressed my concerns. I'm not expecting you to do everything by yourself. My mom can help out too. Are you really sure? Don't you trust me that much? I felt that there was no point in arguing here, and I wanted to retort, but I held my ground. And just like that, I found myself living with my mother-in-law. You've come again. I was waiting. Thanks for having us again. Again? Paige, is something wrong? No, not at all. Life with my mother-in-law exceeded my imagination. I had previously talked to her about my job, and I thought she understood. Paige, you need to do some housework. You can't just let an old lady like me do everything, can you? No, it's just that he. Are you blaming this on Jasper? She wouldn't listen to me properly. It was impossible to handle all the household chores while working. That's why I had discussed it with him, or so I thought. Hey, did you tell your mother about that? Huh? About what? About the housework. I told you it's tough to do everything. Maybe, but you should figure something out. I got angry at him for speaking, as if it were someone else's problem. You don't talk like that, do you? Then help out. Why should I do something like that? I'm the breadwinner of this household. What? Besides, you only make a measly $1,000 a month. I had no idea where he got that figure from. Come to think of it, I did mention earning that amount through commission before. However, I was tired at the time, so I didn't feel like correcting it. There's something I'd like to ask you. About a month had passed since we started living together. Well, what happened? Well, you see, there's still a mortgage on this house. Certainly, my in-laws' house was a standalone home. From what I heard, they bought it, considering their retirement. Are you asking me to pay for it? If that's the case, I should discuss it with him. What are you talking about? I can't possibly discuss something like this with him. It would make more sense to consult her own son, my husband. Why me? At this point, it seemed like nothing more than harassment. Besides, you're earning quite a bit, aren't you? Huh? Did you hear that from him? I think so. It seems there's a big difference in perspective between my husband and my mother-in-law. So how much do you have to pay for that? $1,000 a month, and there are 10 more years left. So, I was wondering if Paige could help out. $1,000 a month is not a small amount, but it's not unaffordable either. I proposed a condition to accept this payment responsibility. In exchange for covering the payments, I ask you to keep this a secret from my husband. That is the condition. If that's all, it's no big deal. So, starting next month, we have an agreement, right? And so, I ended up taking over the loan payments for her. At this time, I didn't imagine that this incident would later have a significant impact myself. After that, we enjoyed a peaceful life for a while. Before I knew it, I had also reached the age of 46. My mom's birthday is coming up. It's a good opportunity, so why don't we celebrate? That's a nice idea, but I don't really know her preferences. I'll handle that part. And I had some concerns for his word, because he seemed oddly confident, but I thought I couldn't be of much help, so I left it to him. Then, on her birthday, "Happy birthday, Mom. This is a gift from us." "Thank you." "What is it?" She opened a large box, and inside, there was a newborn Shiba Inu puppy. I was also surprised by my husband's choice, but I watched that, hoping she would be pleased with it. She wasn't thrilled. Instead, she froze upon seeing the puppies. She remained motionless, as if turned into a statue. Are you okay?" I instinctively called out, and she let out a piercing scream. "What on earth is this all about?" "Huh? But you said you liked dogs." "I like cats, not dogs. I've been scared of dogs since I was bitten by a neighborhood dog when I was a child." I never expected things to turn out like this. I felt responsible for leaving it to my husband, but this was the worst possible outcome. "Then who came up with this idea?" "Jasper, was it you?" He seemed to shrink under her fierce tone, and said something outrageous. "What are you talking about? There's no way it was me, right? Paige chose this. I told her not to do it." "What? Wait a second, what are you saying? You were the one who chose it." From then on, it was truly a hellish situation. "I thought you had become quieter recently, but you were thinking about something like this. You're definitely the worst daughter-in-law." "Wait a minute. It wasn't me. I don't want to hear your excuses. Just return them immediately." With that, she locked herself in her room. An indescribable tension hung in the air. I confronted my husband. "Why didn't you tell the truth?" "Well, lately, it seemed like you were getting along really well with Mom." "What?" Certainly, our relationship with my mother-in-law had improved compared to before, but it wasn't as he described. "Well, isn't it fine? You never really liked Mom that much, did you? That's not the issue here. Please do something about that dog. I'm not fond of dogs either." I stood there in shock. In other words, my husband was jealous of my relationship with my mother-in-law and tried to set me up. The result was a resounding success. From that day on, my relationship with my mother-in-law deteriorated to the point where it seemed irreparable. "Hey, move out of the way, bitch!" "Huh? Why on earth is such a wife like you in this house?" She started saying things like this almost every day since that day. I raised my head and let out a deep sigh. There was one person enjoying this situation. "She called you bitch again." Well, it's true, so what can you do? Is that all you have to say? What's with that attitude? Of course, I thought it was futile to engage with such a person, so I decided to ignore him. It was at that moment that I began to consider leaving this house someday. When I returned from work, the two of them were strangely grinning. You finally came back. For now, have a seat here. I sat on the couch, as instructed. For now, you should leave from here tomorrow. What are you talking about? That's our line. Why do I have to leave? Are you serious? I had completely forgotten. There was no point in arguing with these two. I wouldn't get a rational response. Then please tell me the reason. Well, there's no helping it. Sure, Mom, let me explain. My husband seemed oddly enthusiastic. We've talked to Mom, and it was decided that we can't have a useless person like you in this house anymore. You understand, right? Jasper is right. Plus, you're ugly, and you have no value. Yeah, you said it. The two of them completely ignored me and laughed maniacally. Then he continued, well, telling you to leave today would be too pitiful, so how about leaving tomorrow? That should be fine, right, Mom? Yeah, it would be pretty cruel to make you sleep outdoors. At that moment, any emotions I had left for the two of them vanished completely. Watching them, I realized just how ordinary I was. And today, make sure to sleep on the sofa. I didn't even bother to respond. And the next day, I was packing my things for the move. How much longer do you plan to squat in this house? That's right. You're utterly useless, and, well, ugly too. It's embarrassing, so you better move out soon. We have movers coming soon. Please don't rush me like this. What's with the attitude? My husband and mother-in-law threw these words at me, as if it were second nature, and once they started, they couldn't stop. Now this house will finally have some peace. It's been tough ever since you arrived. Mom's absolutely right. Why did I marry someone like you? Saying this, my husband let out an exasperated sigh. Are you even listening? It's about you, so at least respond. Yes. After that, they continued to throw derogatory remarks at me, negating my character, and even insulting my parents and siblings. I often wonder how I managed to survive in such an environment. I left my in-laws' house in a hurry, practically being kicked out. I'm sorry for the abrupt visit. I'll be leaving soon, I said as I visited my sister's house. It's okay. You can stay here, and you even brought the dog with you, my sister replied. Thanks, relieved to hear. The dog that my husband had brought as part of his harassment was now taken in by my sisters. They were already considering getting a dog themselves, so they were happy to take it. But still, those people are terrible, my sister remarked. Well, just I'm not a good judge of character. But have you thought about what to do next? She asked. Of course. I won't let this go as it is, I affirmed. I stayed at my sister's place for about 2 weeks, and found a new home. I was getting ready to move when the following happened. I had been busy all day, and hadn't really checked my phone. Suddenly, I received an unbelievable number of missed calls from my husband. Hello, what's going on? I answered. Didn't you say your salary was 1,000? My husband asked. What are you talking about? I don't remember saying anything like that, I replied. I found your bank book at home, and it said so, my husband explained. It turned out that my husband had been seriously mistaken all along, and now he seemed to realize how foolish his plan to kick me out was. So what? I asked. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? He demanded. You're the one who misunderstood things, I replied, and I decided to reveal another truth to him. From now on, you'll be responsible for paying the mortgage on that house. I've been covering it until now, I said. But I never heard anything like that from my mom. Besides, what's a mortgage? My husband questioned. My mother-in-law asked me to cover the mortgage for the house, I explained. That can't be true. The mortgage on that house has already been paid off, he exclaimed. I see. What do you mean? He asked. I ended the call, but he immediately called back. I continued to ignore him for a while, but it seemed like my husband wasn't giving up. I couldn't help but think that, if he could redirect this determination to something else, it would be much better. Hey, don't ignore me, he said. I have no intention of getting involved with you financially, so don't call me again, I replied. What do you mean by that? I hung up on my husband while he was still talking, and I couldn't help but laugh. I did wonder how my mother-in-law was doing, but I had no intention of contacting her or helping her, no matter what her situation was. I'm not a saint. After that, there were no more calls from my husband. He probably had other things to worry about. I was busy preparing for my divorce. Then, an unexpected call came from someone who couldn't read between the lines. I heard from Jasper that you made quite a bit of money, is that true? You didn't know? I replied, pretending not to know. Jasper told me you make $10,000 a month. That's a misunderstanding. Also, I heard about the mortgage from him, but it seems it was a lie, right? Well, this is clearly fraud. Then what is it? Perhaps realizing the severity of the situation, she became unusually assertive. Of course, I'm going to sue. It's obvious. Do you really think it's okay to do something like that to your mother-in-law? Of course, I do. Besides, I plan to divorce your son soon. So I'll definitely claim what's owed to me. Do you really think you can get away with this? Absolutely. Well then, good luck to both of you from now on. I hung up the phone and set it to reject any further calls. This was the end of our means of communication. When I realized I no longer had to listen to the nonsense from my mother-in-law and husband, I felt a weight lift off my chest. A month later, the divorce was finalized. I had already started a new life. Then, for some reason, I noticed calls coming from a payphone. I had a pretty good idea of who it was, but decided to answer it just to be sure. What's going on here? The amount is higher than what I got from you, my mother-in-law said. Oh, that's right. You see, they've added damages for deceiving me, came the reply with a chuckle. What? Are you kidding me? I let out a sigh of exasperation. I couldn't help but wonder how oblivious this person could be. And the fact that my mother-in-law had contacted me meant I'm responsible for my mother's damages, too. I can't afford to live like this. I don't know anything about that. You brought it upon yourself. Besides, you get to be with your beloved mother, I retorted. Just a little bit, please. So, about the money. You're so annoying. Don't ever contact me again, you jerk. Unable to say anything more, he gently placed the payphone receiver down. By now, even the densest person should have understood. From then on, I enjoyed living alone. Even though it had been terrible, I had experienced married life. Just thinking about marriage was enough to make me sick, but now, I'm looking forward